Have you ever heard someone say, "These COVID vaccines were made too fast to be safe," or "I got the shot, but I still got sick, so what's the point?" If so, you're definitely not alone. We live in a world where information, and unfortunately, misinformation, spreads faster than ever. And when it comes to our health, especially something as life-altering as a global pandemic, it's no wonder that confusion and concern go hand in hand. That's exactly why we're having this conversation today. Whether you're vaccinated, hesitant, or just plain curious, chances are you've heard a few bold claims about COVID vaccines. Some sound scary, others seem too good to be true, and many leave us wondering what's real and what's rumor. That's what we're here to talk about, not to lecture or push opinions, but to gently walk through the fog and shine a little light on what's fact and what's fiction. COVID turned all our lives upside down. It changed how we live, work, socialize, even how we go to the grocery store. So when vaccines arrived, people had questions. Big ones. And that's healthy. It means we care. It means we want to make informed choices. But in a world full of viral videos and viral headlines, it's tough to know what to trust. That's why today, we're tackling 5 of the most common myths about FDA-approved COVID vaccines, and we're going to unpack the truth behind each one. Let's start with one of the biggest myths that spread like wildfire: the vaccines were rushed, so they can't be safe. At first glance, it sounds like a reasonable worry. After all, how could something as complicated as a vaccine be created and approved so quickly? The answer, though, is more hopeful than suspicious. You see, scientists weren't starting from scratch. For over a decade, researchers have been studying coronaviruses, including SARS and MERS. That gave them a huge head start. Also, because the pandemic was a global emergency, governments and private companies around the world poured unprecedented resources into research, trials, and production. It wasn't a matter of skipping steps, it was about running them simultaneously, and with a level of funding and manpower we rarely see in medical science. The FDA still followed its strict standards, and independent safety boards reviewed all trial data. So no corners were cut, the process was just incredibly efficient. That speed was driven by urgency, not recklessness. Now, let's talk about another statement that's been floating around. If the vaccines really work, why do people still get COVID after getting the shot? It's a fair question, and the truth lies in understanding how vaccines work in the real world. No vaccine, not even the ones we've trusted for decades like the flu or measles vaccines, is 100% effective at preventing all infections. The goal of a vaccine isn't necessarily to block every single case, but to prevent serious illness, hospitalization, and death. And the COVID vaccines have done that remarkably well. Think of it like a seatbelt. Wearing one doesn't guarantee you'll never be in a car accident, but it dramatically increases your chances of walking away safely. In the same way, being vaccinated means your immune system is better equipped to fight the virus. That's why vaccinated people, even if they do get infected, often have much milder symptoms compared to those who aren't protected. There's also the issue of variants. As the virus changes, so do the challenges we face. But that doesn't mean the vaccines don't work. It just means scientists have to keep adapting, like updating flu shots each year, and that's something the medical community is used to handling. So yes, breakthrough cases happen. But the difference in outcomes between vaccinated and unvaccinated groups is stark, and it tells a powerful story about the real-world impact of the vaccines. And here's something else that comes up often, especially from folks who are trying to weigh the pros and cons. We don't know the long-term effects yet, so it's better to wait. On the surface, that feels like a cautious, sensible approach. But let's think about that together. Vaccines, including these, are designed to leave your body quickly. They teach your immune system what to do, then break down and leave. Side effects, if they're going to happen, usually appear within weeks, not years. In contrast, COVID itself has been shown to cause long-term complications in many people, even those who were young and otherwise healthy. Brain fog, fatigue, lung damage, and heart issues aren't uncommon in so-called long haulers. So if we're truly worried about long-term effects, the virus may be the bigger concern, not the vaccine. Let's be honest, making any health decision can feel overwhelming, especially when there's so much noise. We all want to do what's right for ourselves and our families. That's why it's so important to pause, reflect, and look at the full picture. Vaccines are one of the most closely studied medical tools in the world. And when something affects billions of people, scientists, doctors, and regulators are watching every detail like hawks. Now that we've unpacked a few of the biggest concerns, the speed of development, breakthrough infections, and fears around long-term risks, it's clear that things aren't always as simple as the myths make them sound. Sometimes, the truth is quieter, more nuanced, but also more reassuring. Let's keep exploring this together. Now that we've started pulling back the curtain on some of the most common concerns about the COVID vaccines, let's keep the momentum going. You've probably heard this one too, maybe even from a friend or a family member at the dinner table. I heard the vaccine can change your DNA. It's a sentence that can sound pretty scary if you don't have the full story. But once we walk through it together, I think you'll see there's actually nothing to fear. Here's where that myth comes from. Some of the first COVID vaccines that rolled out, like the ones from Pfizer and Moderna, used something called mRNA technology. For a lot of people, that was brand new and unfamiliar, which is totally understandable. And because it's new, it quickly became a target for wild claims. But what is mRNA, really? Think of mRNA like a recipe card. It doesn't go into your DNA, and it doesn't stick around in your body. It simply gives your cells instructions for how to make a harmless piece of the virus's spike protein. That way, your immune system can learn what the virus looks like and practice responding to it before the real virus ever shows up. After that, your body breaks down and disposes of the mRNA. It's like reading a note, memorizing what it says, and tossing it out. Your DNA? Untouched. Unchanged. Completely intact. This technology might feel new to the public, but it's been in development for decades. In fact, researchers were exploring mRNA as a tool for vaccines and even cancer treatments long before COVID ever existed. So what we saw with the COVID vaccine rollout wasn't some hasty experiment. It was the result of years and years of careful groundwork finally being put into action. But let's shift to another common concern, one that comes from a place of personal experience. I had a strong reaction to the vaccine, so it must be dangerous. That's a totally natural reaction to have, literally and emotionally. If you felt crummy after your shot, especially the second one, you're definitely not alone. Sore arm, fever, fatigue, chills, it can feel like a mini version of the flu. And for some, it can be worrying. But here's the thing. Those reactions, while unpleasant, are actually signs that your immune system is doing what it's supposed to do. It's waking up, recognizing a threat, and practicing how to fight it. It's kind of like training for a marathon. It might leave you sore for a day or two, but in the long run, it prepares you to perform better when it really counts. Now, that doesn't mean every symptom is harmless. If you ever feel something unusual or extreme, it's always okay to talk to a doctor. But the vast majority of side effects are mild to moderate and go away quickly. And serious side effects? They're extremely rare. That's why vaccine safety systems are in place, to monitor, track, and investigate anything out of the ordinary. And because the vaccines were given to so many people worldwide, researchers had an enormous amount of data to work with in real time. Still, we know that people react differently. Maybe you had a tough time with your second dose, or maybe someone you know had a reaction that made them hesitate to get boosted. It's okay to have those feelings. But it's also important to weigh them against the risk of what COVID itself can do to your body. Compared to the long list of possible complications from getting infected, especially for people with underlying health issues, a few days of feeling off is a much safer bet. Another concern we often hear is, the government and drug companies are just in it for the money, they don't really care about our health. That's a heavy one, because it taps into something deeper than just science. It's about trust. And trust, once shaken, is hard to rebuild. We've all seen headlines over the years about scandals, recalls, and corporate greed. So it's not surprising that people might look at the speed and scale of the vaccine rollout and wonder who's really benefiting from this. Let's acknowledge something important. Skepticism isn't the enemy of science. In fact, it's a vital part of it. We should always ask questions, especially when it comes to our health. But here's what's often missing from the conversation. Vaccines weren't just rolled out by pharmaceutical companies. They were tested, monitored, and reviewed by teams of scientists, many of whom don't work for any drug company at all. Independent advisory panels, global health organizations, and researchers from all corners of the world were involved in making sure these vaccines met safety and effectiveness standards. And while yes, pharmaceutical companies profited, and that deserves scrutiny, it's also true that countless doctors, nurses, and everyday people stepped up to help save lives. Vaccine development and distribution involved enormous cooperation from the scientific community. The question isn't whether the system is perfect, it's whether the tools we have now are saving lives. And the data says they are. We should always demand transparency and hold institutions accountable. But we can do that without rejecting the science altogether. The goal isn't blind trust, it's informed trust. And that comes from understanding how the process really works, not just how it's framed in headlines. It's okay to have questions. It's okay to feel unsure. The important thing is not to let fear or frustration keep us from seeing the full picture. Because when we do take that closer look, we often find something empowering, clarity. Let's keep going. There's more to uncover, and the more we talk about it, the more we can replace worry with understanding and doubt with confidence. Let's take a moment to talk about one of the most persistent myths out there, one that sounds comforting on the surface, but can be dangerously misleading. It's the belief that natural immunity is better than vaccine immunity. You might have even said or thought this yourself, especially if you or someone you know had COVID and recovered. After all, if your body already fought it off once, why would you need a vaccine, right? It's a fair question. But it's missing a few key facts. Yes, getting COVID can lead to some level of natural immunity. That's true. But the problem is, natural infection doesn't affect everyone the same way. For some people, a mild case might trigger a decent immune response. For others, especially older adults or those with medical conditions, the virus can hit hard, leave long-lasting symptoms, or even be fatal. With a vaccine, you're getting the benefits of immune protection without the risk of rolling the dice on how your body might respond to the full-blown virus. You're not putting your lungs, your heart, or your brain in harm's way just to build antibodies. It's like learning to swim in a calm pool with a lifeguard rather than getting tossed into the ocean during a storm. You're preparing safely, instead of reacting under pressure. And let's not forget how unpredictable this virus has been. Just because someone had it once doesn't mean they're protected forever. Reinfections happen. And some people, even after a mild first round, get hit harder the second time. The vaccine adds a layer of defense, especially important as new variants continue to evolve. In fact, many studies now show that the strongest protection comes from something called hybrid immunity. That's when someone who had COVID also gets vaccinated. It's like giving your immune system both a memory and a playbook. You get the best of both worlds, the experience from natural infection and the precision training from the vaccine. Still, maybe you're someone who's not totally against vaccines, but you're just not sure if this one was necessary for you. Maybe you're young, relatively healthy, and think, if I get it, I'll probably be fine. And that might be true for some people. But here's the thing, it's not just about you. When you get vaccinated, you're helping protect the people around you, too. People who might not have the same strong immune response. People undergoing cancer treatment, people with organ transplants, or even babies too young to be vaccinated. Your decision to get vaccinated becomes part of a bigger picture. A community-wide effort. It's like driving with your headlights on in the fog. You might see well enough without them, but turning them on helps others see you. It reduces the chance of a collision. The vaccine isn't just a personal choice, it's a public one. Now, let's address the final myth that keeps people hesitating, the idea that we'll never know the long-term effects of the vaccine. And again, it's a completely reasonable worry. We all want to know what we're putting into our bodies and how it might affect us years from now. After all, there have been medical treatments in the past that we later learned had side effects. But here's the important difference. With vaccines, including the COVID vaccines, most side effects show up within the first 2 months. That's why the FDA required at least 2 months of safety data before giving emergency use authorization, and even more before full approval. Unlike medications you take every day, vaccines are usually a one-time or occasional dose, and they don't stick around in your body long-term. Think of it this way: when you eat a meal, your body processes it, uses what it needs, and gets rid of the rest. It's not lingering in your system for years. Vaccines work in a similar way. Your immune system learns from it, and then the rest is flushed out. The technology used in the COVID vaccines is designed to be temporary in your body, but permanent in the memory of your immune system. And we now have years of real-world data. Billions of people have received these vaccines. Researchers around the world are constantly monitoring safety, side effects, and long-term outcomes. If there were serious problems emerging, we'd know by now. That's not guesswork, that's data from real people in real time. So where does that leave us? It leaves us in a better place than we were 3 years ago. A place where we have tools, knowledge, and perspective. Where we can ask hard questions and get honest answers. Where we can weigh risk not just emotionally, but thoughtfully. Vaccines aren't perfect, and no medical tool is. But when we step back and look at the bigger picture, the science, the experience, and the lives saved, one thing becomes clear: they've made a difference. You've made it through some tough information, and I just want to take a second to thank you for being open-minded. It's not always easy to challenge our own beliefs, especially in a world full of noise and conflicting messages. But here you are, taking a deeper look, and that matters. If you've had questions, doubts, or fears, you're not alone. And none of those things make you wrong or bad. They make you human. What matters is how we choose to move forward, with better information, with empathy, and with a little more trust in the process when it's earned. If today's video helped clear things up for you or gave you a new perspective, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have you faced any of these myths in your own conversations? What helped you decide what was right for you? Don't forget to like this video if you found it helpful, and hit subscribe so you won't miss future videos like this. We're all learning together, and your support helps keep this channel growing so we can bring you more content that matters. Thanks again for spending your time here with me. Stay curious, stay kind, and remember, seeking the truth is always a step in the right direction. Here's to health, knowledge, and moving forward together.